Welcome back. It is week 14 of Easy Education. I'm Easy to Chris, and I'm here to hopefully make education a little bit easy for you. Now, last week, week 13, because that's the week prior to week 14 is obviously week 13, we started our new quarter, and we started going through the introduction and the first chapter of Donella Meadows' Thinking in Systems. This week, we're continuing in through chapters 2 and 3, which is fantastic. But before we get into that, other things that I've read this week, more Dungeon Crawler Carl. We're going to talk about this for just a minute before we go into the education side of things, because I just finished the 5th book, The Butcher's Masquerade, today, and I really want to point this out really quick. If you are reading Dungeon Crawler Carl, you'll understand this. If you're not reading Dungeon Crawler Carl yet, you're wrong. You're absolutely wrong. You need to change everything about your life decisions regarding reading this book, or more specifically, listening to the audiobook. Because when you get to a point where a talking goat talks about how he's a special boy, and his mom would be proud of him for using a magical rod and a magical peen hammer. It's devastating. And when you're crying in your car because of what a talking goat is referring to, while you're at work, and then you have to go into a barber shop to concealing the tears that you've been crying on your lunch break, it's only slightly problematic. Only slightly. Regardless, read Dungeon Crawler Carl. It's amazing. I will be reading books 6 and 7 over the next few weeks, while book 8 is on its way in May. I'm really excited because they also just announced yesterday that there's a live action show that's in development, and most of us who've been following this series has known for a while that Seth MacFarlane has had the rights for it, but it just got confirmed. It's going to be on Peacock. Hating the fact that I'm going to need another streaming service, but I'm really, really excited for it. So get caught up, read that book series, listen to the audiobook. Jeff Hayes is an amazing narrator. And in the meantime, we're going to talk about Donella Meadows' Thinking in Systems, which is equally interesting in its own way. You may have remembered last week that I was talking about how I was having a really hard time getting into it, and let me tell you, that has not changed at all. It is still very academic, and it is still really, really informational. This book just doesn't grab me. It's got really good concepts in it, and this week's focus was feedback loops and delayed consequences. The big focus for the essay, as well as what we're talking about today, is why fixing symptoms makes systems worse. And the overall theme of the week was why good intentions fail. Now, I'm going to be really, really honest with you. There's a handful of takeaways that I got from these 2 chapters. I'm really having a hard time absorbing it because it is so dry. I love the fact that this book has high-level concepts, but oh man, at what cost? So I'm just going to talk a little bit about some of the complexities and systems that it was trying to refer to, and how it is that if you're just trying to fix individual symptoms, you're not necessarily making things better. So when it talks about a system has multiple components, and the more components, the more complex the system is. Now, you can also have a system within a system to be able to make an incredibly complex system. And I think the best way that I can kind of describe this is through my barbershop. So I do not have employees. I'm not a typical business where I have W-2 employees that come in and work for me. I actually have multiple businesses that operate within the overall business. Okay, following. I lease my stations out instead of hiring employees. Now, one system is the barbershop. That's the overall system. And the really, really simple inflow outflow that you can look at with this system is people come in and need haircuts, they get haircuts, and revenue is generated. That's the easy system. A separate system, as the business owner, I have leases with barbers, and those barbers also have an inflow and outflow within their systems. They have people that need to have haircuts, and they leave with haircuts and they generate revenue. So that's their systems. But they also generate revenue for me. So my system has multiple ways of generating revenue. We're on the same page so far. There's a little bit of complexity, not a whole lot of complexity. I don't do a really, really challenging business. It's just a successful one. Now, let's say I am focusing on the fact that one of those systems needs to gain more clientele. So you've got 4 different barbers, and one of the barbers needs to be able to get more business. Now, as the business owner, I'm looking at these systems and I say like, hey, there's a symptom over here that needs to get fixed. Now, that is a self-contained system in and of itself. It is not my focus to be making sure that that system is actually getting inflow outflow, because that system has to manage itself within the way that its complexities work. Now, if we go from 4 barbers to 3 barbers, and now I have a vacancy in the shop, which means that technically the inflow outflow should navigate to that person. Well, I need to also be recognizing the fact that, well, at some point there could be an outflow of a barber leaving again, and I might be down to 2 barbers. Now, if I get down to 2 barbers, I might not be able to have enough revenue generated for the overall system to work. Now, even though me as a barber myself, I am booked 4 weeks out in advance, which is good for me. I've been doing this for 10 years. I'm pretty successful in it, and I'm able to make it so that way I really don't need to market for myself. I don't need to market for any type of clientele to come in, because frankly, it's kind of hard to get new people. I have somebody that comes in today and they're going to rebook 3, 4, 6 weeks out. And I have 8 to 10 people that do that on a daily basis, and they're all going to rebook 3 to 4 to 6 weeks out. If you're somebody new, 3 to 4 to 6 weeks out is kind of a hard time to come in when you want to get your hair cut this weekend for an event. So you'll probably go somewhere else because the barrier of entry is just too high. So this individual system can afford to lose some clientele and find an equilibrium that balances it, that allows new inflow of customers to come in and be able to have the outflow of providing haircuts and generating revenue, and allow new ones that would be able to. However, it's sustainable. I don't necessarily need to focus on this. This system over here, that is not where my focus as a business owner it needs to be to get the inflow and outflow out of this barber. Where my focus needs to be is, how do I fill this other chair? And that other chair will allow more revenue come into the overall system, which is the barber shop, not just the individual barbers. So that way the barber shop as a system has the capacity to be able to continue growing, continue being sustainable, and continue being able to offer the inflow of customers to the barbers at large, as well as all of the barbers being able to have an outflow of giving good services and being able to make money. Now, that may have been a little bit convoluted, and I apologize if that's the case. Realistically, all it is I own a barbershop where I lease stations. And when I explain it this way, it makes sense in my mind. It's all a bunch of different systems. There's the system of the independent barbers that are running their own businesses. There's the system of me as the shop owner who is also running my own business and providing services. There is the business system at large, the barber shop as a whole. There's the system of marketing that needs to occur in order to be able to get new barbers to come in. There's the system of the art gallery that is a conversation starter for people and a way of being able to network out into the community. all of these systems exist within the complexity of the overall system that is the barbershop. Now, why do I say all this? These are the concepts that it kind of focuses on in chapters 2 and 3 of Thinking in Systems. How does a system that has so much complexity not fail? Well, the reality is, how resilient are you? Me personally, I'm resilient to the extent that I don't need to have a full shop. I can be at 75% capacity and still have the resiliency to be able to maintain the sustainability to make sure that we're all getting paid and that we're all going to be able to have a job to go to on a regular basis. I also, on an individual basis, have the sustainability within my clientele list that if I were to lose customers, I have enough demand that people will come in, because right now the barrier of entry is too high. If I reduce that barrier of entry, I'll be able to replace a lot of the clientele that would potentially leave should they make that decision, and it really doesn't matter. Now I can start focusing on the individual systems, and do I need to focus on trying to be able to create marketing for an individual who needs more clientele, or do I need to put my focus, my time and attention towards getting another barber in there? Well, I, as a leader, coach, however you want to call it, the person who runs the shop, where I can put my attention on is coaching an individual and coaching the individual on being able to let them manage their system and be self-sustainable on their own. That's kind of the idea of how you can focus on not necessarily the symptoms, but the core issue of what is flawed within the individual systems, what needs to be focused on within those individual systems. And if you can start focusing on your business in that manner, you'll be able to burn your candle a little less brightly, so that way you don't burn it out so quickly. I think that that's a really, really good lesson that a lot of entrepreneurs fail to recognize, is at some point you cannot do all of it. And this is definitely an area that I struggle with, because I literally do everything, you know. I run my own website, I do my own marketing, I do all the word of mouth, I create all of the marketing materials, I do the social media, I do my accounting, I did my taxes this week. Oh God, let's not talk about that. But I am somebody who does typically do a little bit of everything. And it is pretty overwhelming. It does burn the candle pretty hot. And recognizing at some point within the last year, I can't do all of it. And I certainly shouldn't expect that out of myself to do everything, because different components of the business need to be able to run on their own. And I need to be able to put my focus where the focus actually is required out of me, as opposed to me, what is this? What is this? What is this? What is this? What is happening? Why is everything going on? Why is this failing while this is failing and this is failing too? When realistically, maybe this isn't failing so hard. Maybe this is just getting pressed to the limitations of where its resiliency can allow it to be. And in reality, I just need it to have that pressure. Because resiliency is the thing that allows systems to succeed. Is if you build in enough backup plans, or plan C, plan D, whatever it is that you need to be able to maintain your ability to go through whatever is thrown at you, the resiliency is the thing that will win out in the end. Now, having said all of this, I am curious, what do you guys think is the best way of being able to manage your systems? Do you think micromanaging everything is effective, or do you like to be able to create more complexity within the system so that way they can operate on their own and you can have a little bit less stress? Let me know in the comments. Let me know how you guys manage your business. I'd love to be able to kind of bounce some thoughts off of one another. Now, in the meantime, next week, we are going to be in week 15. Oh, are we going to still be reading Thinking in Systems? No! No, we're not. This is exciting. Oh, I can finally get out of this book for a minute. So, week 15, the overall theme is going to be authority and trust. That is what I'm going to be developing in my voice and delivery, is authority and trust. So, we are going to be moving away from those books and into James C. Scott's Seeing Like a State. So, we'll be going through the introduction as well as chapter 1, and this is the one that I'm most intimidated by because it's really tiny letters and there's a lot of words, and there's only a couple of pictures. I clearly am going to need more than that. Let's see. Nature and space. Oh man. So we've got, we got that much of the book. It's not a whole lot. It's 52 pages. We can get through 52 pages in a week. The lens in which we're going to be reading is why legibility is seductive and dangerous. And then the focus that we'll be going on to with our writing and the video next week is why institutions oversimplify humans. I just dropped that on the ground. So if you want to see what we do next week, you should do the thing that all of us that create content are going to ask you to do, and that's subscribe. It really helps me out. It makes it so that way this gets pushed out a little bit further, and it makes my heart happy. It really does. Plus, if you subscribe and you haven't seen any of the other stuff that we've done, this is the 14th week. There's 13 other weeks of content. 11 if you really don't want to count the weeks off, but those are fun too, and I definitely talked more about Dungeon Crawler Carl over spring break, so, I've read 5 books in 2 weeks. That's pretty fantastic. But if you just want to pay attention to the podcast or tell your friends, you can find it on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Podcasts, or YouTube. If you would rather just read the essays that I'm writing, you can find them on my Substack, which is Easy to Chris, or you can find both the written content as well as the video here on my website, easytochris.com. In the meantime, thanks so much. I hope we can make education as easy as possible for you. And until next time, be well.